Prayer for Walton Bay, a novel based in the area of Kingston, Ontario in the late 1800s. This story was inspired from the desire to see Canada return to its simple roots after seeing such division during the pandemic in recent years. Available now on Amazon, this book will help fund our efforts here at Momentum Canada, since we are not government funded. Rather than just ask for money, I wanted to give you something wholesome for you to enjoy as well. So place your order today and enjoy a great story for such a time as this. All right, how's it going, everybody? Brandon McCaskill here with another Momentum Monday here on Momentum Canada. So if you're new to the channel, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button and like this video, share it out with your friends and family so that we can get as many eyes on this stream as possible. So what do we do on this stream? We just talk about politics, everything Canadian politics, even what goes on in the States or at an international level. I like to bring some top headlines of the past week and just talk about it. Get a download of how you guys perceive some of the things that we hear about throughout the week. So we have a couple of topics that I'm going to be talking about, but first, if you're not subscribed on our Rumble channel, I want to encourage you to go on over there right now. I'll get started in a few minutes, so you can do that right now. Go over to Rumble at Momentum Canada and make sure you're subscribed to us, because we do post our more sensitive topic discussions and videos over there. Sensitive in the terms of YouTube. Their terms of service. So make sure you're subscribed over there. I just wanted to cover that before we get started. Looks like we have Vikram in the comments right now. Vikram, good morning to you. Great to see you. And I also want to say a quick thank you and shout out to John Malett from last Monday. He covered for me while I was out filming and shooting. Well, actually, during the afternoon, I was preparing. And then at the end of the workday, I went over to the Leaky Tank truck stop to interview Sherry Stewart. And that video is available right now. 2 videos, actually. One's the shorter version, because we sat down it was a 50-minute video. So I wanted to condense it down so that people could really absorb, people that don't have a lot of time to sit down through a whole interview. So I took some of the main points and condensed it to a 7-minute version. Kevin Watson says, good afternoon. Great to have you, Kevin. Good to see some faces in the chat. Yeah, let me know how you guys are doing. Anything interesting that you guys picked up over the week in terms of Canadian politics or world politics? We just have a giant conversation here, and I try to get to as many comments as I can. But just let me know that you're here. Say hello, whatever, and we'll get started. All right, so yeah. This afternoon, actually. So I'll be doing this stream. I usually go till about between 1 o'clock and 1:30 Eastern Standard Time. So I'll clock out after this show, and then I'm going to go interview Tom Stukas here in Sarnia, Ontario as well. He's a local business owner that owns a pizza shop called Pizza World. And we've actually shot a few videos for our channel at this pizza joint, because he's someone who stands for freedom, and he's a great guy. He's become a good friend of the channel, and so I'm gonna go interview him. He's got a story about his fines for refusing to lock down during the lockdowns. So I'm gonna sit down with him. I don't know his full story, so I'm gonna be pretty interested to see and hear what's gone on in his life. I know a lot's been going on. So I'm excited to sit down with him. Yeah. So, yes, I just wanted, just before I wrap up kind of the intro here, tomorrow is part 2 of an interview that I started a couple of weeks ago with a subscriber, a guy who tunes in regularly. His name is Mike Mole. He's given me permission to use his name. And he shared his story of how he's been affected by the pandemic. And we sat down and had a really good conversation. That video is available on Rumble only, because I'm sharing those stories because I want to hear the stories that Justin Trudeau and YouTube don't like us to talk about. So with those types of topics, I upload them to YouTube for you guys to enjoy. So that's the video that's available over there. You get to know Mike a little bit and his story. So tomorrow will be part two because he got an update with his case and with his situation. So I'm going to be giving him a phone call, and we'll record it, and I'll upload it on Rumble, hopefully for tomorrow or maybe the next day, maybe Wednesday morning. But I look forward to that as well. So while I'm on that subject, let me just find a banner here. Right here. This is an email that you guys can contact me if you have a story that you want to be told. However you were affected by the pandemic, I want to hear your story because the mainstream media isn't interested in those types of stories, but I am, and our crowd is. People want to know how people were affected, and I think it's really, really important for people that aren't aware of how bad things got for people. So I want to bring you onto a shared interview like this on StreamYard. I'll record it, put it on Rumble for people to get a download of how bad things got for certain people. We all have different stories. Don't be shy. Your problem with I was talking to someone else and they felt that their story wasn't as bad as other people's, but that's not the point. It's not a competition of whose story is the worst. When it comes to infringing on Canadians' rights, um, they're basically pretty equal because our government is there to protect our rights, not to trample them. So don't feel shy, don't feel inadequate, and yeah. So reach out to me there at dearmomentumcanada@gmail.com. Right on. All right, so let's get into this. So the first topic, the title of today's stream the first line is Justin Trudeau tweets. But before we get into that, let's talk to you guys. Uh, just remember when the YS faces problems at home, including financial collapse, for example, it usually has a distraction such as war or 9/11 event. Interesting. Yeah, you always got to be careful of what they're trying to distract us from. That's absolutely right. Okay, you corrected that. US. Yeah, whenever the US faces problems. Gotcha. That's the United States. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so let's start with Justin Trudeau, Mr. Blackface. Oh gosh. No, I mean, I think all of us know the character that he is. And what I'm about to share isn't all that surprising, but it's just ridiculous, and on key with what I want to talk about uh, for the first segment of this stream. So let's share. I have a Twitter story. Let me find it for you guys. Just bear with me. Twitter. Okay, here we go. So you guys have probably seen this. This has been circulating the social medias. This was on International Women's Day. So he says, and with a disturbing, yeah, there we go. And with a disturbing rise in anti-transgender hate here in Canada and around the world recently, I want to be very clear about one more thing. Trans women are women. We will always stand up to this hate whenever and wherever it occurs. All right. So this is consistent with this woke narrative that disagreement equals hate, that dissenting opinion against their unscientific conclusions is transphobic or violence. So he's being pretty consistent there. But it's just for a leader to get up and say something like that. Like, it's not. Put it this way. I'll say this. I don't hate transgender people. And I actually don't like talking about transgender issues because I don't have an issue with transgender people. I acknowledge that they exist. I respect them as human beings. I'm going to hold the door open for them. I'm going to treat them just like anybody else. But what I don't like and what I actually hate, it's a personal hate, is when people infringe on other people's rights with their ideology and they want to force feed it to you. That's what I don't like. I want to live in in a society, and up to the, recent years, I thought I did live in a society where we could live and let live. Because, like, I grew up as a Christian, right? I grew up as not a I was never a, Bible thumping, I never made people bad for or made people feel bad for not going to church or anything. I mean, it's been 6 years since I've been to church, but my whole life I've been fighting against the narrative that Christians were the ones that forced fed their beliefs on people. So I always stood away from that and always had to kind of make my way through that because I'd get that thrown at me like you guys are very forceful. No, no. But now it's happening on the opposite side where the people that were accusing me of that, they're now saying that I have to agree with them. So it's oh how the tables have turned. Valerie says it's not hate, it's biology. That's what I mean. That's what I mean, right? Trust the science. There you go. Terry French says January 6th and the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank aren't Canadian issues. Why are they on the agenda? And, well, that's a good question because the United States is directly influential to Canada. And if you're familiar with my show, I take just kind of top stories, and those have kind of been the top stories in my news feeds at least. But that doesn't mean that we can't talk about anything else in the comments. So if you have a subject you want to talk about in Canada, 100%, I'll bring it up. I'll read it on the screen. But I know just everybody's talking about it, so I want to get your guys' download of what you guys think of it. Terry, for instance, they require compassion and professional psychiatric help as they're mentally ill. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Gender dysphoria is a real thing, and I have compassion for people, like and I use this example a lot because we get into these discussions in my local, Facebook group, because the same kind of rhetoric comes out that we're hateful, that we're inciting violence, that we're, essentially what we say and what our views are lead to trans people being killed and, violently abused. But that's the furthest thing from the truth. Like I said before, I absolutely condemn um, people. I absolutely condemn people not letting them do what they want in the privacy of their own home. Put it that way. And that's really it. That's really it. And it stops there because if you say that, that means you don't hate them. That means you don't advocate for them being mistreated. And I'm going to get into a local story here in a second. That's just, it's sad and it's a little infuriating. But, and that's why it's just appalling that our prime minister would just put salt in the wound by saying stuff like this. Excuse me. Momentum Canada, long time. I have not seen you. Is your channel Brando on the Go active? This actually, this is the same channel, Brando on the Go. It's just I just went in and edited the name, just to try to reach out to more Canadians because I think Brando kind of sounded like a little too childish for me, and that's what Brando on the Go was. It was just me where I uploaded silly content of. I used to write parody songs, so I wanted to come away from it being more about you guys and less about me, if that makes sense. So Chinese interference in our elections. Yeah, well, we covered that. Well, John covered that last week. We talked a lot about that. Yeah, if you missed that, go check that out. John Mallett did a good job. He talked a lot about that and what that means moving forward. And I even had that conversation with my dad last night because everybody talks about that. Do we go PPC? Do we go conservative? And you hear the arguments every single day, right? Back and forth, back and forth. And I said, well, like, does any of that matter if our elections aren't secure, right? So I would love to see a nonpartisan organization go in and just do a deep clean of our election systems. I think that's what we need to see. Um, I don't know how we initiate something like that, but that's where kind of my mind is right now. Like, how can we move forward with if there is problems? I'm not saying there is problems because I don't know 100% sure, but I have enough reason to suspect that there's a lot of fishy business going on. Especially, I mean, we live in a digital age where it's easy. It would be, in my mind, it would be easy to steal an election for someone like a computer hacker, someone who can, fudge numbers and manipulate information. To me, that makes sense. All right, let me stop sharing this and bring your guys' comments up. Valerie says Justin's tweet is probably for votes, not because he has compassion. Well, 100%. Yeah, 100% it's for votes. He's trying to dog whistle to his crowd. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Excuse me. Go West says his channel is now called Momentum Canada. He changed the name of his channel. Yeah. Yeah, and I've been keeping my name consistent with everything I do. So like Momentum Monday, Momentum Canada, my Facebook page is Momentum Sarnia. Just trying to keep everything about Canada, not Brando. That's the last thing I want to do is make everything about me. Nice name. Thanks, John. Appreciate it. If Justin had compassion, he would place and respect all Canadians before political agendas. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And that's what I was talking to my dad about yesterday about Pierre Polyev, is that I truly believe that, out of this spotlight of trying to become prime minister, I believe when what's his current position? Well, right now he's leader of the opposition, but what was he before? I can't remember the title. Something to do with finance, right? Is it Minister of Finance? I don't know. Maybe someone can clarify that for me. But he seemed like, at that time, unattached from the marionette, if you want to say it, like the corporate pressures of having to abide by certain ideologies and agendas. Like right now, where he's at right now, I feel that he's under that pressure. Like if you want to become prime minister, you have to do this. You have to say this, which explains the Christine Anderson thing, because it just doesn't make sense from a logical, honest, and truthful perspective. It was sort of out of blue and out of left field, and it just didn't make sense. Other than that, he's whistleblowing, dog whistling. That's what I meant to say. So yeah, absolutely right, Valerie. Go West. It is good you haven't been to a church in 6 years. We'll leave that for another time. We'll leave that for another stream. Terry French says, I always take the opposite side from Trudeau's position on any moral ethical issue. That way I know I'm on the right side. Isn't that interesting how that works? And I brought this up the other day, and we're going to get into the topic of January 6th. I'm not going to, I don't know the ins and outs of it. I'm just going to talk, just mention it. But January 7th of that year, after it had happened, the next day I posted an article that was suggesting that it was a setup. And I didn't say it was a conclusive thing. I just said, guys, here's another angle to consider. Things seem fishy. And, on January 6th, I was watching live videos of people walking through the Capitol, and it seemed peaceful. So in my mind, I was like, oh, bunch of tourists taking a tour through the Capitol, and you could see people taking selfies, and it was live. I was commenting on it, and the guy had like thousands of commenters on there, so I wasn't acknowledged, but I watched it live. So I had this perspective, like, something fishy's going on, because it was peaceful from what I saw, mostly peaceful. But it's just so interesting that for me, I'm able to just take a look at who's speaking, who's pushing the narrative, and go, oh, yeah, I remember the Russian collusion hoax when you were saying that. You lied about that. Or the phone call between President Zelensky and Ukraine. You lied about that. So, of course, you're lying about this. Like, if you're paying attention, you can make educated guesses like that, educated assumptions. And that's what I did. I posted that saying, guys, this is fishy. And the people that are trying to tell you to look over here, they've lied before. And I got just pummeled on social media, on Facebook. I had friends like message me saying, like, I won't even repeat some of the things they said, but right after those messages, they deleted me. How could I call into question something like that, and blah blah blah. And that was if I'm honest, it was very, very stressful because these were good friends of mine that all of a sudden just turned on me. So it's interesting that now we're seeing this footage come out, but we'll touch on that in a bit. Let me catch up here. Vote DILF. I think that's Diagolon. I can't remember what that stands for. I haven't been to church in 25 years. Holy moly. You little heathen. Chris Sky for mayor. I'm just kidding, by the way. That's why I laughed. That's usually what a joke means. Christ is your heart, not a building. That's exactly right. Pierre can't say China. No, he can't. What did he say? He said communist Beijing. Really? Is that what we're doing now? All right. Okay, you guys are chatting right on. If you want to know exactly what majors are demon possessed now, you have to ask God, but I think it's all of the 50 churches in the US. Chris is awesome. He can lead, and he is awake to the manipulation on the global and national levels. So when is the election for the Toronto mayor? Can anybody tell me that? I haven't looked into it because I see you guys talking about Chris Sky running for mayor. Reading and listening skills are good. It's true. How dare you question the mainstream narrative? You know what, Pinto Sack? I do what I want around here. Go West says this is not just a Canada problem. It is a worldwide. Well, that's the thing. It's so hard to just talk about what goes on in Canada because, yeah, just like you're saying there, it's not just a Canada problem. It's worldwide. These are global people that are trying to pull the strings here. And that's why I think it's kind of smart to have a gauge on what's going on internationally. But primary focus, because we live here in Canada, I like talking about Canada. And that's why I like talking to you guys. You guys are well read. Good day, everyone, says the healthy truth. We have to separate China's and Europe's interests and even the United States from Canada. Why? Why? I understand our laws are different, but for me, it's just a matter of being aware of what's going on and the players that are involved, because a lot of them are in the same pocket of some pretty corrupt people. Polyev is trying to separate China's communist regime from the Chinese people. That's why he says Beijing instead of China. Yeah, exactly. Yep. They all have an eye on Canada. What gender is Baphomet? I'm not sure. You'll have to educate me on that one, Ryan. Great to have you, by the way. I don't think I've seen your name here before. Awesome to see you. But yeah, so I wanted to bring up Justin Trudeau because it relates directly to a local story that I just picked up. And I had a friend reach out. They said, you know, this girl needs help. She's a local businesswoman. She posted on her social media. It was International Women's Day. She has her opinions on science and biology and that men can't be women. To me, I understand that. Like, to me, it's insulting to women because, like, I have a deep appreciation for women. Like, my wife, best woman in the world. She's been through heck with our situation with our son and our other son, and just a lot of things that women go through that men truly don't understand. So, as a man, I step back and I just go, like, I honor her. I go, wow. So for a man to try to take credit or try to steal the spotlight from women that go through so much, I see that as very insulting. And so does this woman. And I'll share her social media with you. If you guys are on Instagram, I encourage you just to go on over. Her name's Candace M. And show her some love. She's been getting some flack because of her posts. And she had to post this because it was getting so bad. She said, I want to make myself very clear. I believe trans people exist. I believe they have value. I believe in their worth. Everyone has value. As humans at the simplest level, we all do. I don't wish ill upon anyone. I want everyone to thrive, to be the best version of themselves they can be. With that said, we just have a difference of opinion on biology. There should be nothing wrong with that, and myself and many other people who think this way shouldn't be attacked or have their businesses destroyed. I wish and hope nothing but happiness and love for everyone. Sometimes hard times are needed for us to see ourselves in the light we truly were meant to be. And I am guided to be authentic, honest, and lead with love. So she posted this, and then they started tearing her apart in the comments as well. So I left this little comment saying, I have a rule. Anyone who uses the word hate in an argument doesn't deserve my attention. We do realize hate is subjective, right? Rise above these mentally ill, unstable activists. Candace, normal, healthy, functioning minds are with you. Now, what I'm referring to is another page that took her story, and let me share that with you. And then I'll be done with this. It's not something I want to spend too much time on, but where'd that go? The problem with having too many pages open. All right, I'm going to have to find it again. Bear with me one moment, ladies and gentlemen. Because it's to kind of give you a peek into actually what goes on the mind locally, which is, that's why it's so important for me to engage locally. Because if you're not affecting change and you're within arm's reach, you're not going to make a dent federally or even provincially. Yeah, so the Facebook page is called, because I'm in Sarnia, Lambton, it's called Sarnia Lambton Alliance Against Hate. Let me share that so that you can see it. There we go. Boom. So here they are, hanging this young girl out to dry. They say, "Good morning, community. It has been brought to our attention that a local company, Flora and Forage, has been posting transphobic comments on their page. We are here to say that any rhetoric that disrespects a member of the community needs to be addressed and named for what it is. We at SLAH, Sarnia Lambton Against Hate, are also going to invite them in to learn about what this type of hate does to individuals and the community at large, and ask that they put in the work to continue learning and connect with other amazing venues advocating for the alphabet people. To those who are hurt by this, whether you are directly impacted or an ally, know that your feelings are valid and deserve a life of love." We are not going to share this post that was shared to us, as we do not want to perpetuate the hate. But there's 19 shares on that. It was a public post. So there you have it. So that's why that young girl was receiving so much hate, because they just dog whistled and all the mob went after her. Okay, close that. Boom. So yeah, pretty disgusting in my opinion. Pretty disgusting over someone who just simply disagrees with you. You can't. Apparently, you can't do that as a small business. You have to keep your mouth shut, because she posted yesterday, I think, telling people that clients have dropped her because of all this. And I mean, even if you look at some of the things she said, it's pretty tame. It's pretty tame. She's just saying, don't disrespect women. Like, I agree with it. And can she be any nicer about it? Maybe. I don't know. Baphomet is both genders, female and male. So that's like intersex. Is that right? Like it's rare, but yeah, those people do exist. I don't deny those people. But the issue at hand is men that are men that aren't intersex thinking that they can be women. That's the issue we're talking about. A lot of people like to sidestep and say, "Oh, what about this? What about this?" No, that's not what we're really upset about. They all want a piece of Canada at the expense to Canadians. Patriarchy wins again. Yeah. Yes, unfortunately, we are dependent on the US as a trading partner, but we have been taken for granted. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. What I'm glad to see is people like Tucker Carlson giving Canada the spotlight, and even the Blaze. Um, Well, even during the trucker convoy, that was something that was super viral, so it's kinda like they had to cover it. But, the ones that have been regularly, uh, promoting, populist messages is people like The Blaze and, I think what was the one guy's name? Neil David, I think his last name is, Neil David. Um, yeah, there's a few of them. So I'm happy to see that they're starting to turn their eyes this way. It's good. Vikram, that always happens when two countries are very similar. Right on. You guys are having a chat. Appreciate it. Hard to believe there's woke weirdos like that on Sarnia. It's a pretty blue collar lunch bucket type of town. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. All the people that work hard in the plants, they're working hard. They don't have time to argue online and cause drama. But yeah, we elected a pretty, I want to say, a woke council last election, which was sad to see. So it'll be interesting as time goes on. A few years ago, they tried to sign up the city staff for diversity training. That was a huge um, controversy because the one, in my opinion, level-headed guy named Bill Dennis opposed it because he just took one look at it and it was trying to suggest that there's systemic racism embedded into um, the system of how the city operates, and they had to be educated on it, and they were spending taxpayers' dollars to be educated on this. And he's like, no, no, I'm striking this one down. And so he received a lot of flack for that. Um, so we do have level-headed people here, but trying to get them elected is hard because I think a lot of people have lost courage in standing up or lost confidence in the elections themselves. I mean, only I think it was about 26,000 people voted in our municipal election, and it was 110,000 eligible voters in our area, Sarnia Lambton. So to me, that just tells me how much people really care about what's going on. We need to somehow wake people up to start caring. They'll start caring as soon as they start feeling it, right? I'm surprised they haven't felt it yet with inflation and everything that's going on. But I think when they feel stuff like inflation, they always like to point the finger at Trudeau and not locally, right? There's some sort of disconnect, I think, for people. They gravitate towards the more hot topic stuff that's happening at a federal level because they just want to be a part of what everybody's talking about, all the drama that's going worldwide, right? It's kind of like TMZ addiction. But when it comes to policy, the boring stuff that ends up affecting you, like policy in your local area, people are just like, it's boring. Don't want any part of it. I trust whoever's in office. Yeah, that's a mistake. Excuse me. Vikram says, that is why we need good, strong leaders in crisis. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's go back to that because like I stood behind Brooke Day. He's on this show. He ran for city council. He's ran multi-million dollar operations in Taiwan, in Asia. Like he had businesses everywhere. He knew how to read a balance a budget. He knew how to read the spreadsheet. So compare him to someone who gets voted in just because of their ideologies. Sarnia is in trouble if we don't get someone in there. Well, thank God Bill's in there. He's got somewhat of a voice in there. But people that pay attention to making Sarnia great again, because our tax base, we're very dependent on the baby boomers. So once they retire and people are leaving Sarnia, they're not coming here. We get refugees coming here, but we don't have young families interested in coming here. It's because we have nothing to do. We don't have business-minded people that understand, yeah, you got to incentivize people to stay here. You got to incentivize families to want to raise their kids here. There's nobody thinking that way. Now, they'd probably say they are, but you just take one look at them and you know where their priorities are. It's not Sarnia. It's not Sarnia. It's their ideologies. Goa says the Baphomet is the devil. Yeah. Morning, I'm at work. Friendly Firefly. Get back to work. No, great to have you. Great to see you. Loved your video with Tom Marazzo. She had a guest appearance. Tom Marazzo made a great video. I think it's called Because I Asked Questions. It was very, very well done, very heartfelt. She had a cameo in it. So great done. Great job. Well done. House of Bad Influence says, I've got the letters my alphabet mafia sent to all my neighbors and our and our response one. Got to send it to you. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, I'll bring up the email again that you can use. Just 1 second. It's in my banners. Send me an email right there, dearmomentumcanada@gmail.com. These are for your stories. Send me your stories. If you want an interview to tell your story on Rumble, you can just be flat out truth about the pandemic, the jibby jabbies, whatever you want, because Rumble, we can talk about what we want. So that's how you get a hold of me to do that. All right, let me take that down. Boom. Okay. There we go. But then again, I never thought I'd see a downtown crosswalk painted in the rainbow colors in Sarnia either. Right? Am I right? Yeah. Yeah, we had a discussion. And I say we, me and Brooke, on our Facebook page last night, on my Facebook page, about a certain candidate that was accusing us of trying to legislate our morality, our values. It's because Brooks said in his platform that he upholds family values, which to him he was saying, "Listen, I take very seriously like good, honest family values." Like he was trying to convince people that he can be trusted with their tax dollars. So they took that to mean that he's coming after gay people, that he's coming after trans rights, the whole thing, right? And if you know anything about how these people operate, they take any little thing and just make it mean something that it doesn't. Um, but what was interesting is that we found this person's platform for when he tried to run a few years ago in 2018, talking about um, essentially it was him putting his ideologies out there and trying to get people to vote because he'll stand up for their ideologies. So we were just pointing that out and saying, how are you accusing us of that when back here in 2018 you were saying that? Um, he was also saying we didn't understand municipal government, that because he's thinking, yeah, your ideas are beyond what the municipality can do. When in reality, that wasn't the case. We had done our research and we actually presented that time and time again, talking about roads, infrastructure, childcare facilities, drugs, and crime in relation to the police budget and giving the police what they need to handle such an out of control problem. There was all touch points to municipal action. Um, but again, in his uh, platform of the past, he started talking about provincial matters, things that didn't have touch points in municipal policy. And federal, he was saying we're going to stand up, we're going to put people before profits, talking about the corporate federal taxation, right? But what does that have to do with municipal? Like government isn't really in the position to make profits. So it was it was kind of a fun conversation to have. Me and Brooke were kind of slam dunking on them all last night. That's what I do with my free time. No, I don't have a lot of free time. House of Bad Influences. My neighbors fly their flag, but don't like mine. Interesting. Hmm. Mine's diagonal, and theirs is colorfully confusing. Yeah. Just listening today. Good to hear from all y'all. Yeah, it's good to have you here. Ryan Pilupski says 2016, 75% of immigrants stayed. In 2022, 40% of immigrants are staying. See the agenda interview from 2 weeks ago. Interesting. Interesting point there, Ryan. Go West says someone spun out on a rainbow crosswalk leaving black tire marks and they are calling it a hate crime. No, that's got to be a joke. Stop that. Is that real? Brian or Brandon, are you talking about Counselor Ryan White? He's a commie wingnut Brian White, I think you mean. Well, to be honest, I don't know much about Brian to have an opinion on him. I won't give names, but yeah, you can tune in to Sirius for Sarnia, where Brooke he's trying to bring these people onto the show and talk about Sarnia issues. He's had Adam Kilner on. I think that might be the first council member that he's had on, but he's had a few influencers in the city. I hope he gets someone like Bill Dennis on there, Chrissy McRoberts, just so that people can see who they are and where their values are prioritized. But yeah, that's all I'll say for now. Right on. So let's move on to talk about, we can just talk briefly about it. January 6th. So I told you guys my reaction right after it happened, and I suspect there was something fishy going on. And then lo and behold, 2 years later, we have, and this only happened, you got to remember this, and this is why it's so significant, is that Tucker Carlson, he only received the footage in the Capitol because of Kevin McCarthy's speakership position that he just got. So in other words, Nancy Pelosi was keeping this from the public. And I don't understand, because I'll show you just a tidbit of the opposite side's reaction, CNN basically doing what they do best. It baffles my mind that people aren't upset about this. Now, I watched Joe Rogan's reaction. He's always been, pretty negative towards what happened on January 6th, but I started to see him even say, whoa, like, I didn't know this. I didn't see this footage. Why would they hide this? So let's watch this.
These are the pictures you've seen of January 6th. They're familiar because they've been playing on a loop on every media outlet in America for the last 2 years. There's a reason for that. But it turns out there's quite a bit of video you haven't seen. And that video tells a very different story about what happened on January 6th. More than 40,000 hours of surveillance footage from in and around the Capitol have been withheld from the public. And once you see the video, you'll understand why. Taken as a whole, the video record does not support the claim that January 6th was an insurrection. In fact, it demolishes that claim. And that's exactly why the Democratic Party and its allies in the media prevented you from seeing it. By controlling the images you were allowed to view from January 6th, they controlled how the public understood that day. They could lie about what happened, and you would never know the difference. Those lies had a purpose. They created a pretext for a federal crackdown on opponents of the Uniparty in Washington.
Our office wanted to ensure that there was shock and awe, that we could charge as many people as possible.
The first thing you notice from viewing the full video record of January 6th is just how many people entered the Capitol building that day. Hundreds and hundreds of people, possibly thousands, over the course of about 2 hours. The crowd was enormous. A small percentage of them were hooligans. They committed vandalism. You've seen their pictures again and again. But the overwhelming majority weren't. They were peaceful. They were orderly and meek. These were not insurrectionists. They were sightseers. Footage from inside the Capitol overturns the story you've heard about January 6th. Protesters queue up in neat little lines. They give each other tours outside the Speaker's office. They take cheerful selfies and they smile. They're not destroying the Capitol. They obviously revere the Capitol. They're there because they believe the election was stolen from them. They believe in the system. Here's the man you've heard referred to as the QAnon shaman outside the Senate chamber. These are not rioters. These are people who wandered over from a political rally.
We will not let them silence your voices.
After the rally, they walked down Pennsylvania Avenue, where organizers had secured a federal permit to hold a legal rally on the grounds of the Capitol.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
Once at the Capitol building, things began to get chaotic. Capitol police officers fired tear gas into the crowd. A few at the front of the herd broke windows. Someone opened the doors, and many hundreds of others just walked in.
They're going to make that the story.
Of course, they did make it the story. And at the center of it, the single most famous person arrested that day was a Navy veteran from Arizona called Jacob Chansley, often referred to as the QAnon shaman.
The so-called QAnon shaman. QAnon shaman.
Someone named Q Shaman.
Jacob Chansley became the face of January 6th, a dangerous conspiracy theorist dressed in outlandish costume who led the violent insurrection to overthrow American democracy. For these crimes, Chansley was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison, far more time than many violent criminals now receive. What did Jacob Chansley do to receive this punishment? To this day, there is dispute over how Chansley got into the Capitol building. But according to our review of the internal surveillance video, it is very clear what happened once he got inside. Virtually every moment of his time inside the Capitol was caught on tape. The tapes show that Capitol Police never stopped Jacob Chansley. They helped him. They acted as his tour guides. Here's video of Chansley in the Senate chamber. Capitol Police officers take him to multiple entrances and even try to open locked doors for him. We counted at least 9 officers who were within touching distance of unarmed Jacob Chansley. Not one of them even tried to slow him down. Chansley understood that Capitol Police were his allies. Video shows him giving thanks for them in a prayer on the floor of the Senate. Watch.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for giving the inspiration needed to these police officers to allow us in this building.
Contrast the reality of what Jacob Chansley did in the Capitol building on January 6th, the indisputable facts recorded on video, some of which has never before been seen, with the depiction of Jacob Chansley that you've seen in the media for more than 2 years. He's a terrorist, they said. He should be killed.
Shoot him. Shoot him. Like, you burst into the United States, if he was dressed like bin Laden, would you have shot him?
Shoot him. Shoot him. It makes you wonder, who are the violent extremists here? Not Jacob Chansley. And the video proves that. But you would never have known from the media coverage.
The people sitting in the chairs need to be sitting in a jail cell.
Chansley is in a jail cell. He's been there for months. If he was in fact committing such a grave crime, why didn't the officers who were standing right next to him place him under arrest? Until now, no one could even prove that even happened, but it did.
Subscribe.
My mic was muted. Sorry about that, guys. Go West says notice Shaman is wearing a Baphomet hat with the 2 horns. That is a Baphomet hat. So Shaman may be a plant too. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, House of Bad Influence. Vikram says mainstream media is downright criminal both in US and in Canada. Yeah. It's just mind-baffling. Do you guys know anybody? Is there anybody in your family that watches like CNN and believes anything they say? Like, because I've been thinking this way about them for so many years. Like, my bias has just completely been against them for so long. But is their audience, is their ratings existent? Like, what's keeping them funded? I know the CBC is, government funded. How is CNN funded? Is it funded by the people? Who's keeping it funded? Because I don't understand how they get away with running with narratives like this, especially with what's coming out with the Twitter files being testified in front of Congress and, everything that's coming out of what went on. I don't understand how there's still people that take anything they say seriously. Yeah, so that's that. I'll leave that. Terry says, my parents watch CNN and CBC, but they're elderly. Yeah. See, that's my concern. And I understand that. Elderly people aren't, I don't know, even my parents, they can't handle the stress of being informed, I guess, right? Because you do have to have multiple sources and, you know, multiple streams of where you get information from, and that can be overwhelming. What I do is very stressful at times. I know I'm smiling here, but there's times I go to bed with headaches because I'm just, politics. It's you got to learn to do it in chunks and learn to breathe, and that's why I do my best not to get angry with people, because it just ends up ruining you. And I understand it. People have had, in my own circle, have had to step away from politics because they can't handle the mental pressure that it takes. But I am taking care of myself, just so you know. I didn't want to seem like you guys need to be concerned about me. I do have people that reach out and ask how I'm doing from time to time. So I appreciate people like that. And it's good to have friends like that. I highly recommend them. CNN, brought to you by Pfizer. Good to see you, John. John is my go-to guy for information. He sends me all kinds of stuff. I appreciate you, brother. Go West. I don't ask my family. I don't know what they watch. Yeah. They still live by CBC. Yeah. I'm elderly and I'm alert. Being elderly is no excuse. There you go. But I guess when I'm asking, what's the cost of being informed, right? There's a cost to it. You become a loser in your friend circle at work. People think you're the crazy one. Nobody likes that. Our human brains want to be liked. We want to be non-controversial. We want to get along with everybody. So being a target, nobody wants. That's what they can't handle. But you're right. I agree with you. I hope that when I'm older, that I will continue to stay on top of things. I think I will. But I guess we'll see. I'm just saying, I understand the pressure. I understand the desire to, what do they say? Ignorance is bliss. It truly is. When you don't know what's going on, life is good. Life is good if you don't know what's going on. Northier than thou. It's very hard for people to admit they've been fooled. I agree with that. I like being a wolf. Ah, interesting. All right, so let's pivot over here. We'll touch base on this as well. The collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. So let me bring this up. I'll just read something about it. This is from New York Post. There's lots of articles, but I just figured this would give us a download, something to read. JP Morgan analysts warned about Silicon Valley Bank's $16 billion in unrealized losses in November. So this is my understanding of what's going on, because I kind of touch base with Brooke Day from Serious for Sarnia here on the channel, and he's a money guy, so he's been paying attention. So what I think I picked up from him is that, in terms of these pension funds, retirement funds, and like these benefit plans, you have to have liquidity available to be a part of these Ponzi schemes. Now, Ponzi scheme, they've always had a negative connotation to them, but a healthy Ponzi scheme where it's just money in, money out, they're good. But the problem that's been happening here is that these people that are in charge of these funds are taking too much off the top, and they've been doing that for too long, to the point where there's no more liquidity to follow through with these plans and these funds, these benefits. So as a result, that's what we're seeing. And there's an argument to be made, and I saw Charlie Kirk talking about this, is that maybe they cared a little too much about their image, because they're very woke. They're into hiring people to virtual signal rather than people that are smart enough to make good decisions. So I think there is a thread of that argument there, but it's definitely interesting. Let's watch this video.
Failed to shore up its balance sheet through a stock sale. Wall Street's main index has plunged Friday as investors feared for the health of U.S. banks after regulators were forced to shut down one of the tech industry's most high-profile lenders. It was the largest bank failure since the financial crisis, and it helped drive the Dow down 1%, the S&P 500 roughly 1.5%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq 1.75%. California banking regulators on Friday said they closed SVB Financial Group to protect deposits. SVB, which operates Silicon Valley Bank, had tried but failed to shore up its balance sheet through a stock sale proposed earlier in the week.
All right. Yeah, another video started there. Sorry about that. But yeah, pretty big deal. Pretty big deal. A lot of people scrambling to get their money out. A lot of people are blaming on different things, but that's my overall understanding. And I look up to Brooke in a lot of areas, especially when it comes to finance, because he's always paying attention to where the world money is at and what's going on in regards to financial institutions like this with cryptocurrency, just everything to do with the money side of things. I tend to ask Brooke his opinion because it seems to be based in logic. And by the way, he's been talking about this type of news hitting us here in 2023 for some time. He's been talking about that for months and months, saying that 2023 is going to be a rough year. It's going to get rough before it gets better, is what he's been saying. So let's read some more here. JP Morgan warned in November that Silicon Valley's banks. Okay, cool. According to an analyst report reviewed by the Post on Sunday, SVB, which collapsed Friday, was the subject of a November 15th report issued by the JP Morgan North American Equity Research Team for customers paying for the research. JPM released its now troubling research after holding a deep dive webinar with Silicon Valley Bank CFO Dan Beck, the reporter said. Should the balance of deposit outflows and inflows persist for longer than expected? Another key topic we discussed is the risk that SVB will need to sell underwater, held to maturity, securities, and realize losses. Yikes. The focus of investors rapidly shifted to the company's $16 billion unrealized losses in its HTM securities portfolio, with investors expressing that should deposit outflows persist for longer than expected, the company may need to sell underwater HTM securities to meet cash needs. Yikes. So yeah, it just sounds like incompetence, just lack of a better word, putting morons in charge of people's funds. That's my breakdown of it. I don't know how you guys have been watching this, but it seems like it could have been prevented, right? Honestly, a lot of the problems we see today can be prevented, but we just have morons in positions of power because of woke culture. We've and I've even said that at the municipal level, we care too much about our image, not offending people, that we're throwing everything else to waste. So, right on. Anyways, let me catch up with your comments here. Being elderly is an excuse because their habits are deeply ingrained over many decades and near impossible to change. Yeah. See, yeah, well, I certainly have understanding for elderly people that, like I said, and like you're saying, it's their whole life they've spent their whole life being informed, and then, they hit retirement age and they're just there to live the rest of their days in peace, and they don't need everybody else's opinion anymore. So whatever they learned in the past, stuck in their ways. I understand that. And, if they were fighters in their youth and in their prime, then kudos. But even my parents, they weren't too involved in politics. They raised 8 sons. I'm one of 8 boys, so they were super busy. But my dad did well to stay in touch with what was going on. But his staying in touch was like listening to CBC radio. back in the days where people listened to radio instead of watching TV, listen to it in the car and in the kitchen making soup. That's my memory. That's my memory of Dad listening to CBC making chicken soup in the kitchen. But in recent years, especially the trucker convoy, both my parents were just like eyes open. What's going on? And they tend to look to me, which is interesting because I've never been the political figure in my household. They're always like, "Well, Brandon, what's going on?" So they ask me what's going on, and I just share what you guys share with me, and try to make a community out of it. So, yeah, it's certainly interesting. I'm not too sure if age has an excuse or not, but people's situations are different, and I understand it. Go West. You have to be willing to be persecuted and people separating themselves from you. That's a huge thing, and that's why I think it's situational. I mean, I've met people and I've heard their stories where just because they started listening and to certain news sources and repeating certain things that like an old person would be stripped of their rights to see their grandkids, like their kids all of a sudden turn a cold shoulder to them. Like to me, that's devastating. I can just state that story and it doesn't have much of an effect for some people. But if that's happening to you, that's devastating. I mean, you live your whole life raising your kids to be good kids, to have grandkids so that you can enjoy them as grandparents, and to have that taken away over an opinion, that's heartbreaking for that would be for me at least. Terry French, right on. My father-in-law's birthday would have been today if it weren't for certain people telling him to get something he didn't need. He'd still be here. We are angry. I'm sorry to hear that, House of Bad Influence. That's terrible. Very, very sorry for your loss. What is the benefit of knowing the truth? So what if people hate you for knowing it? Yeah, that's a good point. It is worth it. Knowing the truth will save lives. Plus, you know the truth. You know reality. You are speaking the truth. You are speaking the truth. I'm 67 and bad habits are not deeply ingrained. Hogwash. Us elderly have the ability to know the truth. Well, why don't you elderly people fight it out and let us know how it goes? Yeah, I've given my opinion, but I don't know if it resonates with anybody. CBC radio used to be pretty good back in the 70s and 80s before it went super woke. Yeah, well, I can't remember how much. Let me Google it because this is actually relevant. How much is CBC funded by the government? $109 million in working capital. I'm pretty sure it's in the billions. I saw a number the other day, but I can't remember what it is. Okay, here we go. Revenue and other sources of funds. This year, operating funding was $1,098.1 million. Capital funding recognized in income was $106.9 million, and working capital was $4 million. Okay. As soon as you start talking millions, I'm thinking, what on earth do you need millions of dollars for? I do my show for free. Anywho, maybe you guys have a more accurate number. I'll look into that later. 1.2 billion. Is that what you're talking about, Terry French? They need to stop using being elderly as an excuse to not venture out. Maybe you can be their cheerleader, their Go West. Be like, hey, stop making excuses. Get out there. Go do some push-ups. 1.2 billion. Yeah, let me know if that's what you're talking about, because yeah, that's a lot. That's too much. Like no wonder it's gone woke. On a positive note, a filmmaker of my acquaintance said, I can never watch my beloved CBC again. Took him 48 hours in 2020 to see through the BS. Yeah, right. I have friends with older folks that watch mainstream media and they just play along with them because they are fragile, in my opinion. 33 billion. Okay, so I got two numbers going on here. 1.2 and 33 billion. Let me know what's true. CBC also gets revenue from advertising in addition to government funding. There you go. Maybe 33 billion is the addition. That's a lot of additioning. Okay, right on. CBC gets 1.2 billion per year from the government. I'm going to go with that number because I'm pretty sure that's what I remember. All right, guys. So, I've covered what I wanted to talk about in terms of Canadian and even American politics surrounding what we experienced this week. But this was something fascinating that I came across. And, and speaking of taking care of yourself with, not being too engulfed in politics and losing your sanity, sometimes I just kick back at night and watch a movie. As of recently, because I just, started to realize, hey, it's been a long time since I actually sat down and watched something for enjoyment. So there's an old movie, and when I say old, it was made in 2008, so it's still pretty old. I'm only 32, so it's old to me. And I loved watching this movie in high school and even in college. I probably watched it 6 or 7 times. And it's called The Stone of Destiny. Let me know if you guys watched that film. It's called The Stone of Destiny. It's based in Scotland. True story. And it's about these young students that they sense almost like a shamefulness in the Scottish population, that they're kind of ashamed of who they are, and they're just known as Northern Britain, and they want to make a mark for Scotland, and they want to do something important to put them back, on the map as someone to take seriously. So, prior to this, people had tried stealing certain artifacts or symbols from England to try to make a statement of kind of the soul of Scotland. And so these students decided that they wanted to steal the Stone of Destiny from Westminster Abbey in London, England. And if you don't know what the Stone of Destiny is, I can actually play the video for you. There's a small documentary that I watched just the other night. So I hadn't seen this documentary, despite me seeing this movie over and over again, because it's just a funny movie. I'm half Scottish. My dad is from Scotland, and it's funny. It's touching. It's some familiar faces in it. One of the guys from Lord of the Rings is in it, and I don't know if you guys watch. What's the Marvel movie? I think it's Marvel. Not Deadpool. Daredevil. Is it Daredevil? I think it's Daredevil. The blind guy. He's blind, and he does martial arts, and he beats up and kills people. Good show, but he plays him. And there's a couple other familiar faces, but essentially it's about they devised this scheme that no man has done before, and they go in and make a few mistakes, almost get caught a few times, and just the humor in it is just funny, and they end up stealing it, and they wait a couple days before the news media calms down and the police stop searching for it. They like hide it in the field. But while they're trying to steal it, they accidentally break the stone in two. It's this giant stone. So actually, let me show you a visual so I don't have to use my hands to tell the story as much. So here's oh, perfect. I have the video ready to go. So this is it, the Stone of Destiny. So this takes like 3 or 4 guys to carry. This is how big and heavy it is. So I'll play this, kind of give you kind of the history behind it. I won't play the full video, but just kind of give you some glimpses here.
Here goes. Now, irrespective of your own personal creed, colour, race, religion, cultural background or beliefs, the important thing here is the deeply held beliefs and convictions of those who deem it their God-given right to rule over us and who have subsequently shaped our world history for thousands of years. For them, the story begins in Genesis chapter 28, when we read of the patriarch Jacob and his journey through Padan Aram in search of a wife. Along the way, he spends the night at a place called Luz and uses a stone for a pillow. That night, Jacob has a dream, wherein God comes to him and reaffirms the promises made to Abraham and Isaac before him, saying, "The land on which you lie, I will give to you and to your seed. Be fruitful and multiply. A company of nations shall be from you. Kings shall be from your loins, and you shall spread abroad. In you shall all the families of the earth be blessed. I am with you, and will keep you in every place you go. Jacob wakes up, saying, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. He takes up the pillow, anoints it with oil, and sets it up as a memorial stone. He then renames that place Bethel, or house of God, saying, This stone, which I have set for a pillar, shall be the symbol of God's house.
All right. So, yeah. So that's what they believe the stone is from. And this stone has been, actually, I think he goes on. Let me let him go on with this story. Jacob kind of carries it with him, with his people. And this stone is used to swear in kings and queens and royalty. So let me play this for you.
After Jacob's death, the Bethel stone remained in the possession of his sons, and the tribe of Judah became its guardian, taking it with them on their journey from Egypt and into the Promised Land. There, it would become the coronation stone of all of the kings of Judah, and stay in Jerusalem from the time of David until the fall of the nation in 586 BC. The stone was then said to have been delivered via Egypt, Spain, and Cornwall to Ireland by the prophet Jeremiah, who had brought Tia Tepe, the heiress to the Davidic royal throne, there with him to be married into the Irish royal line. With them they carried many ancient relics, including a stone that the Irish Israelites called Leah Fail, meaning stone of fate or destiny. Many researchers believe this to be the same stone that Jacob had slept upon and anointed with oil in Bethel. Leah Fail was eventually held.
All right. So isn't that interesting? And I'm going to tie it to how it relates to us. So yeah, they believe it was the stone that Jacob lifted up in the desert. That's what they believe it to be. And this stone has been carried as a coronation stone. In other words, it's how they legitimized kings being sworn in. And this stone has been on loan from kings that would use it because that's what they believed, and that's how they legitimized things to swear in different kings. And then they'd send it back, and other people would borrow it. And I think it was, if I'm remembering the year correctly, I think it was, actually, I wrote it down. Year 1296 AD, King Edward, he conquered the Scots, because at the time the Scots held it. So King Edward conquered them, and he took the stone so that they couldn't swear in another king legitimately. So it's got great significance. And so after watching this film, I first of all, I had forgotten how good the film is and how funny it is. I enjoyed watching it, put it that way. And so I looked up this documentary, and this documentary goes on to say, which I won't play, I'll just tell you what it concludes, is that essentially these students, they stole this stone, and before they stole it, they had samples done of the rock, and they found out that the stone in which it was made came from the area that Jacob lived. So to them back then, they were just like, yeah, this kind of confirms our belief that it was Jacob's stone, which is fine and good. It came from that area. I think it's around Egypt, if I remember right. Excuse me. But what's fascinating is that after this film was made, so the film doesn't even mention it. I think it was in probably after 2010 area that they did another sample of the stone after Westminster Abbey loaned it back to Scotland, just on a loan. So they did more tests on it, and they found out that the stone was I think almost 100 pounds lighter. And they tested the stone, and it was stone made of particles found around Scotland. So in other words, these students played hooky on them. They gave them the wrong stone back. And so nobody knows where this stone is. But the conclusion of this, and this is where this documentary kind of takes you and suggests, is that even the swearing in of Queen Elizabeth, because all the kings and patriarchs before her were sworn in with this coronation stone that legitimized their authority. But this stone was stolen before Queenie was sworn in. So they're saying that her queenship was illegitimate. And I was just like, whoa. Like I'd never realized that before. I thought that was super interesting because not only if she's illegitimate and everything she's ever signed and every bill she's ever passed, if those are all illegitimate, what does that mean for Canada? Since we are pretty, we're tightly knit to Britain. What does that mean? So I don't know. I don't know if you guys found that fascinating. I just thought I found that out this week and I was just like, whoa, that's kind of cool. Let me catch up with your guys' comments. I get blabbing too much here sometimes. Goa says, it frustrates me that people don't want to know the truth because family and friends will disown you. If you live right, you won't be separated from your grandchildren. I'm not separated from mine. Yeah. Yep. Some people are dealing with different situations, though. I've heard all kinds of stories. Some people just handle it better, I think. John M says, I watched that movie a couple of months ago for the first time. Pretty good movie. Yeah. I mean, it's not like an action billion-dollar franchise movie. I just enjoy it. Probably because my Scottish background, but it's a good story. And I enjoy films that are that are true stories. So yeah. Daredevil, yeah. Thank you for confirming that. Brandon, what's the name of the movie again? It's called The Stone of Destiny. The story of them stealing it was a lesson in Murphy's Law. Funny enough, Irish got to sneak in there somehow. Yeah, well, the rumor, and let me share this with you. The rumor, and I heard this because I have a lot of cousins in Scotland right now, and they saw me post about it on Facebook, and they're like, "Yeah, Brandon," because I just imagine that's how they talk when they talk to me on Facebook. They say, "Brandon, the Stone of Destiny." Oh, let me find it again. It was interesting what she said. The legend has it the real stone is buried in Aberth Abbey. Now, Aberth Abbey, let me find it. All right, I'll cut out the accent. I had it open. There it is. So this is just Google Images. So you can see this little, it's a ruin. It's an old Scottish parliament, I believe, where the stone resided before King Edward stole it, I believe. This is where they made a lot of parliamentary decisions. And this is actually the place, and the movie depicts this, and they actually shoot it here. The students actually take the stone, the fake stone, to this place, and then they call it in and say, yeah, we stole it, come get us. And they hold a little ceremony, and they put a flag over top of it, and that's how the movie ends. Spoiler alert, sorry. But the cops come and arrest them right there. But that's what she's saying. The rumor is it's buried somewhere here, that before they turned themselves in, they buried the real one. So actually, my brother is in this area right now. He lives in Scotland, and he's in this area. I'm going to be telling him, hey, you need to go find the Stone of Destiny. It's just a super fascinating connection I think, to Canada. Because if the Queen is illegitimate, we are illegitimate, guys. You're illegitimate. It is an awesome thing to know truth, even with all you will go through. That's right. If you want to hear something crazy kept from Canadians, it's the Bigfoots, the dogmen, and other cryptids running around our woods kept from public eye. Steve from How to Hunt has a channel called How to Hunt. Interesting. Interesting. I'd have a dream too if I used a stone for a pillow. I actually don't sleep with a pillow. As of recent months, I found out that I sleep way better without a pillow. I don't know. You guys should try it. Vikram Singh says, too many people going missing in our national parks. 4-1 the missing with David Paulides. Huh. I haven't heard of that. Jasper looks very sus. The Bible never says that Jacob used the stone in his altar he made. That's interesting. I'll have to look into that. No one should forget that these so-called people have done to Canada and Canadians. The convoy exposed them for what they are. It's true. Irish Israelites? Irish. No. A lot. And no, I think the idea is that that's what they always believed, that it came from Jacob and how it was carried with them. I think that's an assumption. Go West says it's not mentioned in the Bible, but they're assuming that that's how they got it from one place to another, that they carried it with them when they left Egypt with Moses, and then it started being used everywhere else, because it seems to be passed on from kingdom to kingdom, people borrowing it and taking it and stealing it, and ends up everywhere and preserved and treated kind of like the Ark of the Covenant type of memorabilia, I guess. A lot has been kept from humanity. The people kept dumbed down. If we knew our true history, it will be an awakening. Yeah. The veil is being lifted, and hopefully y'all are prepped for the coming financial crisis. Yeah, I think hard times are amongst us. They're upon us, that's for sure. It's coming. I always say the truth will set humanity free, but it's our history, the pyramids, the aliens, the gods and giants and everything. People are waking up. She has a good channel. Which Queen Elizabeth are you talking about? Okay, so they stole the stone in 1952. So what? And that was before. Let me double check that. I think that was, let's do Stone of Destiny. Stolen in 1952. Oh, no, 1950. On Christmas morning, 1950. So whatever queen that would have been, I'm not sure when. I think it was the recently deceased Queenie, right? I don't know too much about Queen history. Up your kilt, laddie. Yeah. They have created a crisis when there is not. They live on negativity. The world is run by psychopaths and lies. We need to wake up. The sheep need to become the lions and take their place. Brandon. Cool name, bro. Wow, cool. The Irish aren't sneaking in. Scots originally descended from the Irish anyways. And Oak Island. It came from India, the stone. It comes from the aliens times of India. Okay, interesting. The most recent Queen Elizabeth was coronated until 1952. Interesting. Oh, wasn't coronated until 1952. Is that because the real one was stolen? And I have a feeling they knew. Because, like, if it was, the documentary suggests that I think they said almost 100 pounds lighter. That's something you notice, especially if it's an artifact that you're preserving and people are very delicate with it. You notice that type of stuff. And there's something about, because when they stole it, it broke in two. Because in the movie, it's kind of funny because they're trying to pull this thing. It's so heavy. And one guy on the one side and the other on the other side, and they pull it apart by accident. He falls back, and they end up fixing it. They hire some stonemason type guy, and he puts these rods into it, and then they like cement it back into shape. But the stonemason that they hired, they put 4 rods into it, and when Westminster Abbey checked it, whenever that was recently, there was 3. So somehow a rod got taken out of it. So it's definitely not the legitimate rock in my estimation, according to my research. Something for the Arks of the Covenants that were the engines to the pyramids, one kept in Ethiopia. We are a slave race to them. The oil that they are using on King Charles was blessed in Jerusalem, so there is some connection to the royals in Israel for King Charles' coronation. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I've been watching the history movies lately for sure. Last night I just finished. One's called The Kingdom of Heaven, with what's his name, Liam Neeson and Orlando Bloom. Good movie, long movie, but the Christians versus the Muslims and in Jerusalem fighting over who has ownership, which is the argument today. Definitely interesting stuff. Years and years of those types of wars that we're still seeing the arguments of that fester, which is interesting. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. That concludes the stream. That was just something interesting, just a tidbit that I found fascinating that I wanted to share with you guys. And it is related to Canada. But yeah, I appreciate you guys coming out, having a good conversation with me. I really enjoy these. And thanks again for John Mallett for covering me. That was very helpful because I could put all my effort into making sure I did a good job with Sherry last week, interviewing her. If you haven't checked out that video, please go check out Sherry's interview. It's a unique situation because she was offered fines by public health when she was on sacred land, or what's the word? Sovereign land. And so her situation is a bit different from everybody else. But the main message from that video is that these authorities overplayed their hand. And for that reason, that just shows how power drunk they were. And hopefully that adds some credence and seriousness to other people that are fighting their legal battles that weren't on sovereign land. And I'll find that out this afternoon, actually. That's what I got to get ready for right now. I'm going to go interview Tom Stukis from Pizza World here in Sarnia, Ontario, on the corner of George and Mitten Street. Great pizza. Guys, it's fantastic pizza. And I'm not kidding you. Brooke from Serious for Sarnia, he does these pizza reviews where he just goes around town, and he's got this system where, he weighs a lot of different parameters, the spread, the types of cheese, how crunchy it is, the toppings, how it's cooked. And they ranked number 2 in Sarnia when we have so many pizza stores, pizza shops here in Sarnia, and they ranked number 2. So pretty darn good pizza. And he loves freedom. He stands for freedom. And so I'm excited to talk to him today. Be on the lookout for that. Other than that, I will catch you guys next stream. Same time, same place, every Monday, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Please share this out. If you guys don't mind, share this to your social medias. Get as many eyes and ears on this type of stuff as possible. I appreciate you. Hit that like button before I close up this stream so it feeds the algorithm. House of Bad Influence, poor men fighting for the rich man's wealth. Yeah, unfortunately. Yep, you're right. Thanks, guys, for asking questions. A great awakening is going on. Cheers, man. Right on. Take care, everyone. Bye for now, and God bless. A Prayer for Walton Bay, a novel based in the area of Kingston, Ontario in the late 1800s. This story was inspired from the desire to see Canada return to its simple roots after seeing such division during the pandemic in recent years. Available now on Amazon, this book will help fund our efforts here at Momentum Canada, since we are not government funded. Rather than just ask for money, I wanted to give you something wholesome for you to enjoy as well. So place your order today and enjoy a great story for such a time as this.